What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I did want to talk about the Chase Squad update coming to Motorfest here in year 2. Now, I did actually talk about this a bit in the recent video, but I was like, you know what? I probably should touch on this again and actually go over my initial thoughts on it. So we all do know right now we're obviously going to be getting police in Motorfest, which to be honest is kind of surprising to me. We all do know that certain companies like Toyota and stuff are not really into having police in games, or that was like one of the biggest things that was said about it on why certain vehicles are not going to be in certain games and stuff like that. But now we're actually going to be having police in Motorfest, so it does kind of make you think about it a bit. And we also, of course, did see Fast and Furious having a racing scene with police, so who knows, maybe that isn't going to be entirely true, and some of the games like Need for Speed might not actually be getting something like police in them, because it is probably going to come down to an initial licensing thing with them not having Toyota, or maybe them not wanting to pay Toyota and stuff like that. Who knows? Maybe we might see Toyota in the next Need for Speed game. But the reason why I did want to talk about the Chase Squad a bit is a lot of people have been wondering how this is going to work. So for one thing, I did talk about the PvE, like premium content thing. We still don't know exactly what that means, so we're going to have to wait on that. But we do know right now there is obviously going to be the Chase game mode coming out where you can be a racer, or I guess you can also be a police driver as well. Now this is probably going to be fairly similar to something like Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, or at least I would think it's going to be similar to that type of game mode, to where you're probably going to be a police racer, you have to bust the racers in the event. Because I did mention this in the other video, guys, let's be honest here. They cannot copy the takedown event from the Crew 2 like they shouldn't, and they most likely will not do that. I would be really surprised if they did. The reason why is I did like the takedown game modes. Yes, they were fun, but let's be honest though. I mean, a lot of players probably did them and they're like, okay, they're fun, and then around like 2 or 3 days after doing them, you're like, I mean, they're cool, but I don't really care to do these anymore. Yay, you can farm them. But I would most likely guess at that point, though, that many players are most likely not going to want to keep farming those over and over, and they are probably going to completely ruin the takedown events for themselves. Like, for example, farming one of those for hours on end trying to make some money, you are most likely not going to want to do one of those events ever again. So I would say having the right design on that for at least a replayability factor is probably going to be fairly important. Now, the other thing I did want to talk about right now wasn't the actual thing from the website. So right here, guys, this is the thing I keep thinking about, and it reads, hunt, outmaneuver, and take down street racers in ruthless face-offs all over Motorfest Islands. Now, a lot of people might read this and go, okay, so you're going to outmaneuver, take down some street racers. What's the big deal about this? Here's what I'm getting from this small sentence. I do think they're actually going to add something similar to Need for Speed Rivals in the fact that if you are racing around in a police car, you're most likely, or you could run into a racer and most likely start like an actual like online type of thing. Now, keep in mind it's most likely only going to be PvE focused, as it does mention, because if there were to do an entire PvP factor, that would be insane. And of course, we're also getting a Need for Speed Unbound update, which is going to be focused on a hot pursuit type of update, which is kind of interesting how Motorfest is doing that. But back to the topic here, though. If we are looking at this, though, I do feel like that could be something that could work. Like, if you are driving around in a police car, maybe you see a racer going around, which I do know currently on the map itself, you can turn off, like, the ghost cars and stuff, which nobody liked them. But my question is, though, are they now going to have random racers around the islands? And if you are driving like a police car, you can immediately start that pursuit. Now, the thing about this, though, is I do feel like there's going to be a few different factors that most likely plays a role here. For one, let's say you can actually drive around, and yes, there is going to be random racers scattered everywhere. If you are driving a police car, can you actually engage that pursuit and stop them? Now, the thing about this, though, is can another player jump in and, let's say, help you stop them, or can they actually help the racer stop you? That would be kind of funny. And imagine how fun that would actually be in multiplayer, man, if they did add something like that. Now, in the Motorfest Year 2 Update is Coming video, I did talk about how they could actually do this in a race setting and how could it actually work. Now, we all do know right now, once again, nobody probably wants a takedown setting type of thing, right? So what if they did actually do a race type of setting to where the cars have a bit more health? Now, don't worry, though, I'm not talking about, like, boss level health to where the car's, like, almost invincible or something like that, but at least giving them enough health. That way you actually have to at least run into the racers a couple of times to destroy them. Now, I would say, like, for example, on the takedown events, you did notice the enemies, or the cars for that matter, had around 3 bars of health. Let's say in the new update on Motorfest they have maybe 5 or 6, so it's not going to be too insane, but you are going to be required to actually have to run into them a couple of times. Now, don't worry here, guys. I do know people were thinking about this, including myself. would they actually add weapons into the game? Now, I'd be like EMPs or like some weird things from the Crew 1 or something like Hot Pursuit. I do know a lot of people are probably going to go, well, hold on a second, they're blocked. Nobody wants that. And you know what? You're probably right. I would probably say that's something they should not do. Like, if they do give the cars like 2 or 3 pieces of health bar and then like you can run into them and then that's pretty much it, I just feel like if there was a racing environment, there wouldn't be as fun to do it. At least give the cars a bit of health and have an objective behind it. That way it's going to be like, okay, this might be kind of challenging on the max difficulty. Then you're actually going to have to think to get it done in a certain amount of time, or you're probably going to have to really think to destroy the cars a bit easier, whether it's like T-boning them or hitting them in the back a bit easier, or maybe finding a faster way to actually destroy them. I just feel like that would be a lot of fun, man. Plus, we are obviously getting police cars in Motorfest, which is just insane to me. We all do know we're seeing the Azus and also the lovely Mustang in there. So I'm really wondering which other cars they are most likely going to end up adding. And on top of that, guys, I did make a video about the type of like premium PvE content, which is obviously going to be tied to the Chase update. Now, the question about that, though, is how are they going to make it premium PvE content? I mean, I did mention in the video they could do a motor pass or something, which I would probably guess would make the most sense. Like, they're not going to add the cars in the store or something, as I mentioned. I just don't think that would make a lot of sense. So something like a motor pass would probably be the way they would end up doing it. Now, the big thing here, though, guys, we are most likely going to have to wait for more information to come out until September. Hopefully, they end up showing something before then, but that's, I guess, going to be like the showcase of it. So then they might end up showing like the new Motor Pass, which I'm sure is going to have a lot of mixed opinions, if there is one. And then we're also going to see how the game mode probably works and what they are most likely really going to add to it. Personally, I really can't wait to see how they do end up actually making this. Now, do let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. I would like to know what you guys think about this. Do you actually think the design of this is going to be different than the takedowns? Is it going to follow pursuit of something like Hot Pursuit, which was probably a terrible sentence? But if I had to guess right now, though, the biggest question everybody is asking is what exactly is the premium PvE content?